So I hope you've seen from those previous headlines that dealing with the media doesn't have to be negative. You can have positive headlines in your industry sector. So my answer to this question, can it be a positive experience dealing with the media? The answer is yes. And this idea of the positive experience of dealing with the media requires you to do something about it. It's not just going to happen by them coming to you. So what I want you to take in as an idea is that you can meet the media on your terms, and there are lots of media with whom you might end up dealing. There's your local media, publications, maybe your local radio, maybe you've got even a local TV station, if not certainly a regional TV station. The point being that they all have lots of time to fill, they've got pages to fill, and they need people who know what they're talking about. And could you or your colleagues be the correspondent that they come to? Could you be the expert in your industry sector that they come to? And if so, how are they going to know you're out there? You've got to take the initiative and make sure that you make contact with them. And the point being, if you're doing this already, it's on your terms, and it's not this idea that we often have of dealing with the media, that they're coming to attack you because there's a crisis or something going on and you're not ready to deal with them. If you start to become involved with them yourself, you already have an understanding of what the media environment can be like. So this is something I deal with in my online course, and also of course when I go to companies and deal live with them with TV cameras, with microphones, with even paparazzi, if that's a sort of scenario that we want to make happen. So what are the 5 steps to dealing with the media that I deal with? They are, very quickly, taking it chronologically through the whole idea of the interview. Before the interview itself, important to understand what do the media want when they contact you, and taking a look at what happens during the media interview itself, and in particular I take a look at how to deal with radio and TV, because radio and TV are very particular, TV even more so, and I'll use that as a basis for some ideas in a moment. But the important thing there, number 5, is what I've already started to, I hope, give you some ideas about. It's this idea of you taking initiative and you having an agenda when you go to the media yourself. So it's not just about the media wanting something from you. You are going there because you also have something you want from them, and you have an agenda, things you want to achieve. And that's the basic idea there. What I'm not going to touch on today, but which I do touch on in the course itself, online and live, when I do live training, is this idea of dealing with a crisis. But that's a much more specialised area, but I do cover some of the basic principles of doing that. So let's take one of those main media points from the course and just see how we can explore it with the idea of how this can also apply to transferable skills I mentioned earlier, and skills that you can then use in your business meetings, in your business presentations, internal, external, public conferences, whatever they might be. In other words, they're not just about, therefore, skills that are relevant to being in touch with the media, they're also things that you can use in your own business environment. So the key thing, first of all, you wouldn't go into any kind of meeting, a sales meeting, whatever it might be, without having some idea of what you want as an outcome. The same thing applies to going to deal with the media. You also have something you want to get from this meeting, and it may be that you want to get across a particular key message that you have. So keep an idea of a key message you would want to get across, and the difficult thing then is getting into talking about your key message. And one of the ideas that helps you do this is bridging. In other words, getting from what's being talked about smoothly into what you would also like to make sure you do talk about, which is that key message. So let's take a little look at this idea, and the methodology of getting into your key message is as simple as ABC, which I'll explain in a moment. The whole point being that here, this picture is your conversation, your interview. On the far side of the river is where you are at the moment with the interviewer. You're having the conversation, it's whatever the interviewer's been talking about, and your key message is waiting to be used, and your key message is in the other side of the river on the bottom of the picture there. So what you're trying to do at some point is you want to make sure that you bridge across from what's being talked about and smoothly get to this point where you can actually talk about your key message that you want to get across as well. And it shouldn't be forced. It's something which needs to happen as a natural part of the conversation. And let's see how we can maybe do that then. Here's the idea. It's finding your way into your key message. It's the ABC thing. And what the ABC refers to is, if the interviewer, let's say, has asked you a question, you need to acknowledge the question. In other words, don't ignore it. You then need to use your bridging phrase to get across to the key message that you can then communicate. And the point being that if you have your key message and your key thing you want to get across in that interview, the point is that the interviewer is probably never going to ask you a simple, straightforward, direct question that will lead you into that key message. So that's why the bridging phrase can be so helpful. Also, it can be a way of getting you out of talking about something that you didn't want to talk about, something you should have agreed in your contract beforehand that you weren't going to talk about, but the interviewers brought it up anyway. The bridging phrase can get you out of that and into something you do want to talk about, your key message. So what are some bridging phrases? Let's have a look at some idea of what these might be. And I'll just run a list there for you. And when I'm doing the training live, what I'm not asking you to do is to learn all these phrases. That's not the point at all. The idea is to show that there are a variety of ways in which you can bridge from one topic to another topic. What I would suggest is that you maybe one or two appeal to you because they fit in with the way you talk, with the way you deliver, with your general vocabulary. But if none of those does that, find a phrase or two that work for you. And the important thing then is to try and use them in your normal everyday work, your normal everyday life, so they become a natural part of how you express yourself. So that, let's say, you can always look at it this way, is one you've chosen. Use that in your business meeting, use that in your conversation, use that in your conferences, in your presentations. And should you then find yourself in the more stressful situation of being in a TV interview or a radio interview, it'll become a natural part of the way you make your conversation work, that you make your bridge into something you do want to talk about. So then you've got your ABC. So these phrases here are the B part of your ABC scenario.